Rehearsals have been in full swing in the national capital. This year's Republic Day parade will be one with many firsts. This year's parade will be held after Rajpath was renamed Kartavya Path. Only made in India weapon systems will be part of this year's display. The 21-gun salute will be from Desi 105mm Indian field guns, replacing the British-era 25-pounder guns which were used in World War II. In a first, women personnel will be part of the Border Security Force Camel contingent. Remember, Egyptian President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi is also in the national capital as the chief guest of India's 74th Republic Day celebrations. Sisi held a bilateral meeting with Prime Minister Narendra Modi in New Delhi, and both countries signed several MOUs on cyber security and economy. Prime Minister Narendra Modi also interacted with NCC cadets, NSS volunteers and performers who are part of this year's program. Let's listen.
हमारे एनसीसी और एनएसएस के कैडेट्स विभिन्न आर्टिस्ट गणतंत्र दिवस के परेड में शामिल होने जा रहे हैं। आप सबको मेरी बहुत बहुत शुभकामनाएं हैं। साथियों, एनसीसी और एनएसएस ऐसे संगठन है जो युवा पीढ़ी को राष्ट्रीय लक्ष्यों से, राष्ट्रीय सरोकारों से जोड़ते हैं। कोरोना काल में किस प्रकार एनसीसी और एनएसएस के वॉलंटियर्स ने देश के सामर्थ्य को बढ़ाया, ये पूरे देश ने अनुभव किया है। इसलिए सरकार का भी ये निरंतर प्रयास रहा है कि इन संगठनों को प्रोत्साहित किया जाए, इनका विस्तार किया जाए। अब जैसे हमारे सीमावर्ती और सागर तट पर बसे जिलों में अनेक प्रकार की चुनौतियां आती रहती है, इनसे निपटने के लिए भी सरकार आप जैसे युवाओं को तैयार कर रही है।
Ahead of Republic Day, multi-layer security cover has also been put in place in the national capital. This is of course standard practice, and there have been some inputs, as always, as all years, that there can be some attempting an untoward incident. Police have stepped up their anti-sabotage checks, verification drives, patrolling. Around 6,000 security personnel will be deployed, and a total of 24 help desks have been set up in New Delhi district for those who will be attending the celebrations as well. Speaking about this year's parade, this year's celebrations include the march at Kartavya Path. They'll have contingents from the armed forces, paramilitary forces, tableaus from various states and central ministries and departments, cultural performances by children and others. We're on standby for Indian President.
प्यारे देशवासियों, नमस्कार। 74वें गणतंत्र दिवस की पूर्व संध्या पर देश और विदेश में रहने वाले आप सभी भारत के लोगों को मैं हार्दिक बधाई देती हूँ। संविधान के लागू होने के दिन से लेकर आज तक हमारी यात्रा अद्भुत रही है और इससे कई अन्य देशों को प्रेरणा मिली है। प्रत्येक नागरिक को भारत की गौरव गाथा पर गर्व का अनुभव होता है। जब हम गणतंत्र दिवस मनाते हैं तो एक राष्ट्र के रूप में हमने मिलजुल कर जो उपलब्धियां प्राप्त की है उनका हम उत्सव मनाते हैं। भारत विश्व की सबसे पुरानी जीवंत सभ्यताओं में से एक है। भारत को लोकतंत्र की जननी कहा जाता है, फिर भी हमारा आधुनिक गणतंत्र युवा है। स्वतंत्रता के प्रारंभिक वर्षों में हमें अनगिनत चुनौतियों और प्रतिकूल परिस्थितियों का सामना करना पड़ा, लंबे विदेशी शासन के अनेक बुरे परिणामों में से दो कुप्रभाव थे, भयंकर गरीबी और निरक्षरता। फिर भी भारत अविचलित रहा। आशा और विश्वास के साथ हमने मानव जाति के इतिहास में एक अनूठा प्रयोग शुरू किया। इतनी बड़ी संख्या में इतनी विविधताओं से भरा जनसमुदाय एक लोकतंत्र के रूप में एकजुट नहीं हुआ था। ऐसा हमने इस विश्वास के साथ किया कि हम सब एक ही हैं और हम सभी भारतीय हैं। इतने सारे पंथों और इतनी सारी भाषाओं ने हमें विभाजित नहीं किया है, बल्कि हमें जोड़ा है। इसलिए हम एक लोकतांत्रिक गणतंत्र के रूप में सफल हुए हैं। यही भारत का सार तत्व है। ये सार तत्व संविधान के केंद्र में रहा है और समय की कसौटी पर खरा उतरा है। स्वतंत्रता संग्राम के आदर्शों के अनुरूप हमारा गणतंत्र को आधार देने वाला संविधान बना। महात्मा गांधी के नेतृत्व में राष्ट्रीय आंदोलन का उद्देश्य स्वतंत्रता प्राप्त करना भी था और भारतीय आदर्शों को फिर से स्थापित करना भी था। उन दशकों के संघर्ष और बलिदान ने हमें न केवल विदेशी शासन से बल्कि थोपे गए मूल्यों और संकीर्ण विश्व दृष्टिकोण से भी आज़ादी दिलाने में मदद की। शांति, बंधुता और समानता के हमारे सदियों पुराने मूल्यों को फिर से अपनाने में क्रांतिकारियों और सुधारकों ने दूरदर्शी और आदर्शवादी विभूतियों के साथ मिलकर काम किया। जिन लोगों ने आधुनिक भारतीय चिंतन धारा को प्रवाह दिया, उन्होंने आन भद्राः कृतवयन्तु विश्वतः, अर्थात हमारे पास सभी दिशाओं से अच्छे विचार आए कि वैदिक उपदेश के अनुसार प्रगतिशील विचारों का भी स्वागत किया। लंबे और गहन विचार मंथन के परिणाम स्वरूप हमारे संविधान की संरचना हुई। हमारा ये बुनियादी दस्तावेज दुनिया की सबसे प्राचीन जीवंत सभ्यता के मानवतावादी दर्शन के साथ साथ आधुनिक विचारों से भी प्रेरित है। हमारा देश बाबा साहेब भीमराव अंबेडकर का सदैव ऋणी रहेगा, जिन्होंने प्रारूप समिति की अध्यक्षता की और संविधान को अंतिम रूप देने में महत्वपूर्ण भूमिका निभाई। आज के दिन हमें संविधान का प्रारंभिक मसौदा तैयार करने वाले विधिवेत्ता श्री B.N. राव तथा अन्य विशेषज्ञों और अधिकारियों को भी स्मरण करना चाहिए, जिन्होंने संविधान निर्माण में सहायता की थी। हमें इस बात का गर्व है कि उस संविधान सभा के सदस्यों ने भारत के सभी क्षेत्रों और समुदायों का प्रतिनिधित्व किया। संविधान निर्माण में सभा की 15 महिला सदस्यों ने भी योगदान दिया। संविधान में निहित आदर्शों ने निरंतर हमारे गणतंत्र को राह दिखाई है। इस अवधि के दौरान भारत एक गरीब और निरक्षर राष्ट्र की स्थिति से आगे बढ़ते हुए विश्व मंच पर एक आत्मविश्वास से भरे राष्ट्र का स्थान ले चुका है। संविधान निर्माताओं की सामूहिक बुद्धिमत्ता से मिली मार्गदर्शन की बिना प्रगति संभव नहीं थी। बाबा साहेब आम्बेडकर और अन्य विभूतियों ने हमें एक मानचित्र तथा एक नैतिक आधार प्रदान किया। उस राह पर चलने की जिम्मेदारी हम सब की है। हम काफ़ी हद तक उनकी उम्मीदों पर खरे उतरे भी हैं, लेकिन हम ये महसूस करते हैं कि गांधी जी के सर्वोदय की आदर्शों को प्राप्त करना अर्थात सभी का उत्थान किया जाना अभी बाकी है। फिर भी हमने सभी क्षेत्रों में उत्साहजनक प्रगति हासिल की है। प्यारे देशवासियों, सर्वोदय के हमारे मिशन में आर्थिक मंच पर हुई प्रगति सबसे अधिक उत्साहजनक रही है। पिछले साल भारत दुनिया की 5वीं सबसे बड़ी अर्थव्यवस्था बन गया। ये उल्लेख करना जरूरी है कि ये उपलब्धि आर्थिक अनिश्चितता से भरी वैश्विक पृष्ठभूमि में प्राप्त की गई है। वैश्विक महामारी चौथे वर्ष में प्रवेश कर चुकी है और दुनिया के अधिकांश हिस्सों में आर्थिक विकास पर इसका प्रभाव पड़ रहा है। शुरुआती दौर में कोविड-19 से भारत की अर्थव्यवस्था को भी काफ़ी क्षति पहुंची। फिर भी सक्षम नेतृत्व और प्रभावी संघर्षशीलता के बल पर हम शीघ्र ही मंदी से बाहर आ गए और अपनी विकास यात्रा को फिर से शुरू किया। अर्थव्यवस्था के अधिकांश क्षेत्र अब महामारी के प्रभाव से बाहर आ गया है। भारत सबसे तेजी से बढ़ते हुए बड़ी अर्थव्यवस्था में से एक है और सरकार द्वारा समय पर किए गए सक्रिय प्रयासों द्वारा ही संभव हो पाया है। इस संदर्भ में आत्मनिर्भर भारत अभियान के प्रति जन सामान्यों के बीच विशेष उत्साह देखा जा रहा है। इसके अलावा विभिन्न क्षेत्रों के लिए विशेष प्रोत्साहन योजनाएं भी लागू की गई है। ये बड़े ही संतोष के विषय है कि जो लोग हाशिए पर रह गए थे उनका भी योजनाओं और कार्यक्रम में समावेश किया गया है तथा कठिनाई में उनकी मदद की गई है। मार्च 2020 में घोषित प्रधानमंत्री गरीब कल्याण अन्न योजना पर अमल करते हुए सरकार ने उस समय गरीब परिवारों के लिए खाद्य सुरक्षा सुनिश्चित की जब हमारे देशवासी कोविड-19 की महामारी के कारण अकस्मात उत्पन्न हुए आर्थिक व्यवधान का सामना कर रहे थे। इस सहायता की वजह से किसी को भी खाली पेट नहीं सोना पड़ा। गरीब परिवारों के हित को सर्वोपरि रखते हुए इस योजना की अवधि को बार बार बढ़ाया गया तथा लगभग 81 करोड़ देशवासी लाभान्वित होते रहे। इस सहायता को आगे बढ़ाते हुए सरकार ने घोषणा की है कि वर्ष 2023 के दौरान भी लाभार्थियों को उनका मासिक राशन मुफ्त में मिलेगा। इस ऐतिहासिक कदम से सरकार ने कमजोर वर्गों को आर्थिक विकास में शामिल करने के साथ साथ उनकी देखभाल की जिम्मेदारी भी ली है। हमारे अर्थव्यवस्था का आधार सुदृढ़ होने के कारण हम उपयोगी प्रयासों का सिलसिला शुरू करने और उसे आगे बढ़ाने में सक्षम हो सके। हमारा अंतिम लक्ष्य एक ऐसा वातावरण बनाना है जिससे सभी नागरिक व्यक्तिगत और सामूहिक रूप से अपनी वास्तविक क्षमताओं का पूरा उपयोग करें और उनका जीवन फले फूले। इस उद्देश्य की प्राप्ति के लिए शिक्षा ही आधारशिला तैयार करती है। इसीलिए राष्ट्रीय शिक्षा नीति में महत्वाकांक्षी परिवर्तन किए गए हैं। शिक्षा के दो प्रमुख उद्देश्य कहे जा सकते हैं। पहले आर्थिक और सामाजिक सशक्तिकरण और दूसरा सत्य की खोज। राष्ट्रीय शिक्षा नीति इन दोनों लक्ष्यों को प्राप्त करने का मार्ग प्रशस्त करती है। यह नीति शिक्षार्थियों को 21वीं सदी की चुनौतियों के लिए तैयार करते हुए हमारी सभ्यता पर आधारित ज्ञान को समकालीन जीवन के लिए प्रासंगिक बनाती है। इस नीति में शिक्षा प्रक्रिया को विस्तार और गहराई प्रदान करने के लिए प्रौद्योगिकी की महत्वपूर्ण भूमिका को रेखांकित किया गया है। हमें कोविड-19 के शुरुआती दौर में ये देखने को मिला कि प्रौद्योगिकी में जीवन को बदलने की संभावनाएं होती है। डिजिटल इंडिया मिशन के तहत गांव और शहर की दूरी को समाप्त करके सूचना और संचार प्रौद्योगिकी को समावेशी बनाने का प्रयास किया जा रहा है। दूर दराज के स्थानों में अधिक से अधिक लोग इंटरनेट का लाभ उठा रहे हैं। बुनियादी ढांचे में हुए विस्तार की सहायता से सरकार द्वारा उपलब्ध कराए जा रहे विभिन्न प्रकार की सेवाएं लोगों को प्राप्त हो रहा है। हम विज्ञान और प्रौद्योगिकी के क्षेत्र में अपनी उपलब्धियों पर गर्व का अनुभव कर सकते हैं। अंतरिक्ष प्रौद्योगिकी के क्षेत्र में भारत गिने चुने अग्रणी देशों में से एक रहा है। इस क्षेत्र में काफ़ी समय से लंबित सुधार किए जा रहा है और आप निजी उद्यमों को इस विकास यात्रा में शामिल होने के लिए आमंत्रित किया गया है। भारतीय अंतरिक्ष यात्रियों को ले जाने के लिए गगनयान कार्यक्रम प्रगति पर है। ये भारत की पहली मानवयुक्त अंतरिक्ष उड़ान होगी। हम सितारों तक पहुंचकर भी अपने पांव जमीन पर रखते हैं। भारत का मंगल मिशन असाधारण महिलाओं की एक टीम द्वारा संचालित किया गया था और अन्य क्षेत्रों में भी बहनों और बेटियां आप पीछे नहीं है। महिला सशक्तिकरण तथा महिला और पुरुष के बीच समानता आप केवल नारे नहीं रह गए हैं। हमने हाल के वर्षों में इन आदर्शों तक पहुंचने की दिशा में काफ़ी प्रगति की है। बेटी बचाओ बेटी पढ़ाओ अभियान में लोगों की भागीदारी के बल पर हर कार्य क्षेत्र में महिलाओं का प्रतिनिधित्व बढ़ रहा है। राज्य की अपनी यात्राओं, शिक्षण संस्थानों के कार्यक्रमों और प्रोफेशनल्स के विभिन्न प्रतिनिधि मंडलों से मिलने के दौरान मैं युवतियों के आत्मविश्वास से बहुत प्रभावित होती हूँ। मेरे मन में कोई संदेह नहीं है कि महिलाओं की आने वाले काल के भारत को स्वरूप देने के लिए अधिकतम योगदान देंगे। यदि आधी आबादी को राष्ट्र निर्माण में अपनी श्रेष्ठतम क्षमता के अनुसार योगदान करने की अवसर दिया जाए तथा उन्हें प्रोत्साहित किया जाए तो ऐसे कौन सा चमत्कार है जो नहीं किया जा सकता है। सशक्तिकरण की यही दृष्टि अनुसूचित जातियों और अनुसूचित जनजातियों सहित कमजोर वर्गों के लोगों के लिए सरकार की कार्यप्रणाली का मार्गदर्शन करती है। वास्तव में हमारा उद्देश्य न केवल उन लोगों के जीवन की बाधाओं को दूर करना और उनके विकास में मदद करना बल्कि उन समुदाय से सीखना भी है। विशेष रूप से जनजातीय समुदाय के लोग पर्यावरण की रक्षा से लेकर समाज को और अधिक एकजुट बनाने तक कई क्षेत्रों में सीख दे सकते हैं। प्यारे देशवासियों, शासन के सभी पहलुओं में बदलाव लाने और लोगों की रचनात्मक ऊर्जा को उजागर करने के लिए हाल के वर्षों में किए गए प्रयासों की श्रृंखला के परिणाम स्वरूप अब विश्व समुदाय भारत को सम्मान की नई दृष्टि से देखता है। विश्व के विभिन्न मंचों पर हमारी सक्रियता से सकारात्मक बदलाव आने शुरू हो गया है। विश्व मंच पर भारत ने जो सम्मान अर्जित किया है उसके फलस्वरूप देश को नए अवसर और जिम्मेदारियां भी मिली है। जैसा कि आप सब जानते हैं, इस वर्ष भारत G20 देशों के समूहों की अध्यक्षता कर रहा है। विश्व बंधुत्व के अपने आदर्श के अनुरूप हम सभी की शांति और समृद्धि के पक्षधर है। G20 की अध्यक्षता एक बेहतर विश्व के निर्माण में योगदान हेतु भारत को अत्यंत महत्वपूर्ण भूमिका प्रदान करती है। इस प्रकार G20 की अध्यक्षता लोकतंत्र और मल्टीलेटरलिज्म को बढ़ावा देने का अच्छा अवसर भी है और साथ ही एक बेहतर विश्व और बेहतर भविष्य को स्वरूप देने के लिए उचित मंच भी है। मुझे विश्वास है कि भारत के नेतृत्व में G20 अधिक न्यायपरक और स्थिरतापूर्ण विश्व व्यवस्था के निर्माण के अपने प्रयासों को और आगे बढ़ाने में सफल होगा। G20 के सदस्य देशों के कुल मिलाकर विश्व की आबादी में लगभग 2/3 और ग्लोबल जीडीपी में लगभग 85% हिस्सा है। इसलिए ये वैश्विक चुनौतियों पर चर्चा करने और उनके समाधान के लिए एक आदर्श मंच है। मेरे विचार से ग्लोबल वार्मिंग और जलवायु परिवर्तन ऐसे चुनौतियां हैं जिनका सामना शीघ्रता से करना है। वैश्विक तापमान बढ़ रहा है और मौसम में बदलाव के चरम रूप दिखाई पड़ रहा है। हमारे सामने एक गंभीर दुविधा है। अधिक से अधिक लोगों को गरीबी से बाहर निकालने के लिए आर्थिक विकास जरूरी है, लेकिन इस विकास के लिए फॉसिल फ्यूल का प्रयोग भी करना पड़ता है। दुर्भाग्य से ग्लोबल वार्मिंग का सबसे अधिक कष्ट गरीब तबके के लोगों को सहन करना पड़ता है। ऊर्जा के वैकल्पिक स्रोतों को विकसित करना और लोकप्रिय बनाना भी एक समाधान है। भारत ने सौर ऊर्जा और इलेक्ट्रिक वाहनों को नीतिगत प्रोत्साहन देकर इस दिशा में सराहनीय कदम उठाया है। हालांकि वैश्विक स्तर पर विकसित देशों द्वारा टेक्नोलॉजी ट्रांसफर और वित्तीय सहायता के जरिए उभरती हुई अर्थव्यवस्थाओं को सहायता प्रदान करने की आवश्यकता है। विकास और पर्यावरण के बीच संतुलन बनाए रखने के लिए हमें प्राचीन परंपराओं को नई दृष्टि से देखना होगा। हमें अपनी मूलभूत प्राथमिकताओं पर भी पुनर्विचार करना होगा। परंपरागत जीवन मूल्यों के वैज्ञानिक आयामों को समझना होगा। हमें एक बार फिर प्रकृति के प्रति सम्मान का भाव और अनंत ब्रह्मांडों के सम्मुख विनम्रता का भाव जागृत करना होगा। मैं इस बात पर ध्यान आकर्षित करना चाहूँगी कि महात्मा गांधी आधुनिक युग के सच्चे भविष्य द्रष्टा थे, क्योंकि उन्होंने अनियंत्रित औद्योगिकरण से होने वाले आपदाओं को पहले ही भांप लिया था और दुनिया को अपने तौर तरीकों को सुधारने के लिए सचेत कर दिया था। अगर हम चाहते हैं कि हमारे बच्चे इस धरती पर सुखमय जीवन बिताएं, तो हमें अपनी जीवन शैली को बदलने की ज़रूरत है। इस संदर्भ में सुझाए गए परिवर्तन में से एक बदलाव भोजन से संबंधित है। मुझे ये जानकर प्रसन्नता हुई है कि संयुक्त राष्ट्र ने भारत के सुझाव को स्वीकार किया है और वर्ष 2023 को द इंटरनेशनल ईयर ऑफ मिलेट्स घोषित किया है। बाजरा जैसे मोटे अनाज हमारे आहार के मुख्य तत्व हुआ करते थे। समाज के सभी वर्ग उन्हें फिर से पसंद करने लगे हैं। ऐसे अनाज पर्यावरण के अनुकूल है, क्योंकि उनकी उपज कम पानी में ही हो जाता है। ये अनाज उच्च स्तर का पोषण भी प्रदान करते हैं। यदि अधिक से अधिक लोग मोटे अनाज को भोजन में शामिल करेंगे तो पर्यावरण संरक्षण में सहायता होगी और लोगों के स्वास्थ्य में भी सुधार होगा। गणतंत्र का 1 अरब वर्ष बीत चुका है और एक नया वर्ष शुरू हो रहा है। ये अभूतपूर्व परिवर्तन का दौर रहा है। महामारी के प्रकोप से दुनिया कुछ ही दिनों में बदल गई थी। पिछले 3 वर्ष के दौरान जो भी हमें लगा कि हमने वायरस पर काबू पा लिया है, तो वायरस फिर किसी विकृत रूप में वापस आ जाता है। लेकिन अब इससे घबराने का कोई ज़रूरत नहीं है, क्योंकि हमने ये समझ लिया है कि हमारा नेतृत्व, हमारे वैज्ञानिक और डॉक्टर, हमारे प्रशासक और कोरोना योद्धा किसी भी स्थिति से निपटने के लिए हर संभव प्रयास करेंगे। साथ ही हमने ये भी सीखा है कि हम अपनी सुरक्षा में कमी नहीं आने देंगे और सतर्क भी रहेंगे। प्यारे देशवासियों, विभिन्न क्षेत्रों में कार्यरत कई पीढ़ियों के लोग हमारे गणतंत्र की अब तक की विकास गाथा में अमूल्य योगदान के लिए प्रशंसा के पात्र है। मैं किसानों, मजदूरों, वैज्ञानिकों और इंजीनियरों की भूमिकाओं की सराहना करती हूँ, जिसकी सामूहिक शक्ति हमारे देश को जय जवान, जय किसान, जय विज्ञान, जय अनुसंधान की भावना के अनुरूप आगे बढ़ने में सक्षम बनाती है। मैं देश की प्रगति में योगदान देने वाले प्रत्येक नागरिक की सराहना करती हूँ। भारत की संस्कृति और सभ्यता के अग्रदूत प्रवासी भारतीयों का भी मैं अभिवादन करती हूँ। इस अवसर पर मैं उन बहादुर जवानों की विशेष रूप से सराहना करती हूँ जो हमारी सीमाओं की रक्षा करते हैं और किसी भी त्याग तथा बलिदान के लिए सदैव तैयार रहते हैं। देशवासियों को आंतरिक सुरक्षा प्रदान करने वाले समस्त अर्धसैनिक बलों तथा पुलिस बलों के बहादुर जवानों की भी मैं सराहना करती हूँ। हमारी सेनाओं अर्धसैनिक बलों तथा पुलिस बलों के जिन वीरों ने कर्तव्य निभाते हुए अपने प्राणों की आहुति दी है, उन सबको मैं सादर नमन करती हूँ। मैं सभी प्यारे बच्चों को उनके उज्जवल भविष्य के लिए हृदय से आशीर्वाद देती हूँ। आप सभी देशवासियों के लिए एक बार फिर मैं गणतंत्र दिवस की हार्दिक शुभकामनाएं व्यक्त करती हूँ। धन्यवाद। जय हिंद, जय भारत।
We could have domestic political differences, even large differences, but those differences shouldn't be used as tools by people with dubious interest from outside the country to once again subjugate us to whatever we went through.
Resignation of Anil Anthony, son of tall Congress leader A.K. Antony, once again proves that no self-respecting individual who thinks for the nation, speaks for nation's integrity and sovereignty can remain in the Congress party.
Not even 24 hours had passed since Anil K. Anthony, KPCC digital media head and national co-coordinator of social media of the Congress party, had voiced his opinion on the BBC documentary, cautioning that no one should keep the voice of our former colonial subjugators above Indian institutions. The Congress member from Kerala has had to quit his duties. He is hit out at the Congress party for being intolerant and promoting sycophancy. And he is joining me now on the show. Anil, thanks a lot for speaking to me. Once again, we spoke yesterday and it hasn't even been 24 hours when you expressed your views on the BBC documentary opposing those giving more weightage to that than the Indian court's verdict, and you've had to quit your position from the Congress party. What exactly happened? Could you tell me the reasons why you were getting the kind of reactions that made you take this call?
See, a lot of things have been brewing for a while, but at the end of the day, like certain incidents that escalated in the last 24 hours actually makes me think that at this moment I am a misfit in this organization because of many reasons. So in the morning yesterday, like it was a very normal day, I made a tweet. The tweet is up for the world to see.
Yeah.
And in the tweet, what I have said is also very clearly written. There are 4 lines in it where I clearly says that I am a person with a lot of strong differences of opinion with the BJP. At the same time, when it comes to certain things, which is actually issues that are pertaining to our core national interest, including including our sovereignty, and when it comes to certain issues where you feel that certain external entities could threaten the sanctity of our institutions, then I feel that we should actually let partisan politics go, because end of the day our partisan politics cannot go above national interest, and I feel that this is something 99% of this population of this country will agree with me also. And I made an innocuous tweet just insinuating that, plus also saying that, let's say this is a documentary that is there, great, I'm not against any freedom of expression. In fact, I am a Democrat of the highest order, and I'm very happy that I'm proud of the fact that we are a country which is the largest democracy in the world, the oldest democracy in the world.
Okay.
And a country like ours, it is very important that we actually encourage and sustain freedom of speech and expression. So I am not really against the screening of any documentary, any film, any movie. This is not the issue here. But I did raise a concern that end of the day, this particular documentary comes from a certain place, and that is that the same people who are behind the documentary are the same people who are responsible for the propagation of the Iraq war and the weapons of mass destruction theory, etc., which resulted in a horrible conflict where lakhs of people were killed and millions of people were displaced. And when these kind of dubious people actually create a project and bring it to the country, I certainly feel that we as Indians should be concerned about. And these different thoughts, I just actually created a little tweet and I tweeted, but somehow a lot of people got very riled by that and they wanted me to let's say pull back the tweet or give an apology, or some people in Kerala were actually saying that they are going to take action against me or expel me from the party, etc., and I think this is all nonsense, because end of the day I don't think I have said anything wrong. End of the day I have stood by my own convictions, and here is somebody who let's say because they live in certain la land and they live in certain grand areas of delusion, they disagree with what 99% of this country think, and that is that partisan politics should never come above national
Well, that
interest.
is something that the Congress party has been accused of. But given that you're saying that 99% of the country thinks like this, Anil, I do want to point out to you that your colleague, someone who has helped you in the past, someone you worked with very closely in the past, Shashi Tharoor, also said that he disagrees with you. He says that this documentary cannot put India's integrity and sovereignty at risk. How would you like to respond to that?
See, end of the day, I don't know about Dr. Tharoor's statement, and like I said, Dr. Tharoor is somebody who I absolutely have the highest of regards for. And when compared to my Congress colleagues also, like end of the day, like we had no disagreements on the, let's say, screening of this documentary in any manner. I am not against the screening of this documentary in any manner. The only thing which I actually said was this, like end of the day, we should be cautious about where it comes from.
Okay.
And the second thing is, end of the day, you shouldn't create a long-term precedence where, let's say, you should let foreign institutions and foreign organizations actually have a bigger say over our national institutions or make our national institutions' integrity be weakened, because that in the long, so I'm not saying this documentary is actually going to create any kind of sovereignty issue in this country. Our India sovereignty and our strength is way bigger than all this. But end of the day, certain things lead to certain things, and we shouldn't let certain precedences happen, because in the long run, it is a dangerous trend. That is all I said.
You've been very harsh, in fact, and very categorical in your criticism of the Congress party also. While announcing your resignation and even in your resignation letter, it feels like you'd had enough of the sycophant culture, as you said, in the party.
See, end of the day, whatever I have written is very self-explanatory. And whoever reads it, they will exactly understand why I am saying it and about who I am telling about. If you are looking at some of the things that have happened in the last few years in the party, it is not just me. Like, end of the day, I haven't left anywhere, but so many when compared to many of the stalwarts who left, I'm just a little nobody baby. But so many people who have been working in this party for 4 decades, 5 decades, 6 decades, my dad's contemporaries, so many senior union ministers, chief ministers, even some of our young leaders who are our best people as far as potential is concerned, they were all leaving one by one. Why is this happening? Because end of the day, something is wrong somewhere. End of the day, like you can't behave like ostriches, which actually just want to have your head under the stand and think that everything is okay. And just because you are blind doesn't mean that the world is not blind to whatever is happening. So there are issues. But end of the day, I don't think there is anybody in this organization that is concerned about even hearing about issues end of the day, right now things have become a one-way street where, let's say, people just talk like a radio, like things come this way, but there is no feedback the other way. And end of the day, I've been seeing all this for the last 1-2 years. So end of the day, this is all distressing, and like from where I come from and my let's say my professional qualifications and my academic qualifications and my professional life, etc. When compared to that, I think right now whatever is happening is very trivial and a waste of my time. And I think I have better things to do, which is what I'm pursuing at this moment.
I was going to ask you about the leadership. Are you not disappointed that someone like Rahul Gandhi, who has said that, the Congress has internal democracy, they stand for free speech, he hasn't really stood up for you or defended your right to voice your opinion? Even Jairam Ramesh, who dismissed Digvijay Singh's comment on surgical strikes as a personal opinion, hasn't come out and defended you for your right to speak.
So end of the day, This is what I am disappointed by, because I am somebody who actually have the highest of regards for Mr. Rahul Gandhi and whatever efforts he is actually doing to unite that country with a walk from Kanyakumari to Kashmir, spreading the message of love, spreading the message of unity. And sadly, I am sad for him, because these are the kind of people around him who actually stands for nothing he stands for. They are actually the epitome of hate, the epitome of vile, they are the epitome of the worst of everything, which is completely opposite of what Mr. Rahul Gandhi is actually standing for. And with these kind of people, I don't think this will reach anywhere.
Final question. Several would say, as has been the case with those who've left the Congress party before, that you're doing all of this because ultimately you want to join the BJP. So I do have to ask you, are you planning to join the BJP next?
This is all ridiculous nonsense. Like, end of the day, like I said very clearly, like, I have no intention to go anywhere. I have no intention to join anybody, nor do I even have any intention to join any political party or pursue any kind of politics at this moment. At this moment, my primary focus is my professional life and my professional career, which I think is in an area which is the driver of the world right now, which is technology, and I'll be very happy working in that right now.
Okay, I thank you for joining us and making your views heard. It is a sad state of affairs, frankly, what has happened and transpired with Anil Anthony just for a tweet on an issue. Let me open this up to our guests also joining us. Savio Rodriguez is founder, Goa Chronicles. He's also with the BJP. Tushar Gupta, senior editor, Swarajya magazine. Advocate Matthew Antony, spokesperson of the INC. Javed Ansari, senior journalist. Sanjay Jha, former INC leader and political analyst, also joining us. I do thank all of you for your time and for your patience. Sanjay, I'm coming to you because you've been in a position similar to Anil Anthony. For voicing your opinion, disciplinary action was taken against you. You've been suspended since and continue to be suspended. He wasn't suspended, but he's saying there was a wall of hate on his Facebook. Congress supporters were hounding him, targeting him. Kerala unit, he said there were people who threatened him. He was getting threatening calls. Frankly, this has become a joke to send a message of love on one hand, but internally this happens to your own party people. Just for what? Just for the fact that he disagreed a little bit with the party line.
Shivani, good evening to you and all the panelists. And it's great to be with my friend Matthew Anthony. He and I have worked together for a long time. So, Matthew, great to be with you on the show. Let me make my statement very succinct and to the point. Anil was right, and so is the Congress. I'll tell you why. Because I have remained suspended, but, I do respect where the party comes from. Now, I was critical of the party's leadership. I was very upset about the way they were not fighting against the BJP. And I raised certain uncomfortable questions in the public domain. I was exactly and fully aware of what the consequences could be. I totally agree with you, Shivani, that I wish the Congress was more open and more accommodative of a divergent opinion within. But I'm also mature enough and a seasoned enough guy, I'm not born yesterday, to know that political parties do remain, a lot more sensitive or thin-skinned when it comes to certain criticism, which might make it make a nuisance of it in terms of a public spectacle. I think Anil Anthony should have been left alone because I don't think the Congress had to overreact. On the other hand, Anil Anthony should also have been aware that on a sensitive issue, because the 2002 Gujarat riots, the BBC documentary are sensitive subjects. I mean, after all, the Prime Minister of this country is under a spotlight which is not very favorable at all. And if Rahul Gandhi has publicly taken a position saying that truth is finally emerging, then I think Anil Anthony should have known what the consequences
No, I
can be.
think his tweet came earlier. His tweet came before Rahul Gandhi's statement. But the central point continues to be, why hound him out?
Well, can I tell you one thing, Shivani? If in politics you're not thick-skinned, then I don't think you deserve to be there. And I'm not a dynastic succession guy. His father has been a veteran congressman. And in politics, if you say that, I got trolled and therefore I panicked.
No, but Sanjay, that's not fair. The Congress party comes to the defense of those who get uncomfortable comments from people on social media when it suits them. But here's your own guy who's getting hounded by your own people and getting threats and hate messages. You're just saying, oh, you're getting trolled. I find that duplicitous of the Congress party because they shout from the rooftops if even one bad comment comes against someone they want to highlight. But let me bring in the Congress spokesperson. This is becoming a bad advertisement for your party, sir. That's the fundamental point. Young people just do not feel they can be progressive with their views, and they continue to leave you. And all of them say the same things when they leave you. That this is a party of sycophants, nobody likes any divergent view, leadership doesn't listen. He said you're living in La La Land.
Thank you, Shivani. And Sanjay, good to be with you in a panel. And thanks to all other panelists too. Let me put a few statements here. One is, we have utmost respect to Sir A.K. Antony, who is a senior most leader and who still holds a very senior position within the party and is well respected and is consulted by the party leadership at any point of time before any major decisions. The second point is, on a sensitive issue like the Gujarat riots, we have made our stand very clear from the time of the Gujarat riots till now, that we stand and we have an opinion about the Gujarat riots and the people behind it. Now, this happened 20 years back, and at that point of time, the said person is Narendra Modi, Gujarat Chief Minister. The BBC documentary is about Narendra Modi, not about India. So we should be very specific. We should not generalize it as a document against India. It is a document against an individual who is currently holding the post of Prime Minister in India, but about his political choices which he has made to become the Prime Minister of the country or to make his political ambitions fruitful. This is where we stand. And now, without going and studying the documentary, without going and understanding how the Godhra incidents happened and the history of it, as a learned, educated man, making a statement in public stating that it is affecting the sovereignty of the country where it is not, and then taking the irritation of the party workers, which is not orchestrated, but it is individual opinion. The party has officially nothing to do with it. And as rightly Sanjay said, being in politics and being in social media needs a thick skin. And that's where it has happened. So the party has officially not asked Anil to step down. It is his own independent decision, individual decision to step down. He made his opinion, but at the same time, the party leadership, as well as individual leaders from former Congress President Rahul Gandhi and to all other leaders, have just reassured our opinion on the subject. So this is where it is like, I don't see any
fair enough. The party is very well within its right to have a certain view. And Rahul Gandhi addressed that view and nobody questioned that view. But, since I have limited time, unfortunately, I'll take this to some of my other guests also. Savio, the point is here this. You keep saying you stand for love, you stand for unity, you stand for diversity, there is an internal democracy in your party, you stand for freedom of speech, and then this happens to your party person. And what is so earth-shattering about what Anil Anthony said? He actually spoke to me and said categorically, my views on Gujarat are not different than the Congress party. But I feel as far as this documentary is concerned, let's not project it as higher than Indian courts, because remember, this documentary is coming after the Supreme Court clean chit. That's the context in which we must see this documentary. Savio.
Well, Shivani, I'd like to make 3 points, and thank you for having invited me. The first point is, taking off from what Sanjay Jha said, he mentioned the fact that if Rahul Gandhi's made a statement, then you should follow the line of Rahul Gandhi. I'm sorry. We live in a democracy. I belong to a political party as well. If I disagree with the political party's point of view, I think I'm within my right to raise that point of view. So we need to stop this sycophancy culture that exists in political parties, starting with the Congress party, because what Mr. Anthony said, whether he agreed with what was in the documentary or not, the moot point was he had a point of view. And he did not need to be hounded for that. And that's where the problem with the Congress is happening. When you have a point of view and you get hounded for that, you get castigated for that, that's when you start depleting the confidence of people who are being with you. Number one. Number two, in politics, you don't need to have a thick skin. I'm sorry. The most important thing you need to have in politics is an ability to tell the truth in the interest of the country.
And also have your ear on the ground. Look at the sentiment. That's what Anil Anthony is saying. The Congress is not keeping the sentiment of the public at the front.
The most important thing is the BBC documentary. While the Congress and the opposition might be very happy of the contents in that documentary, let us also be very truthful and honest about the fact that the Supreme Court has passed a judgment on all the allegations that were leveled on Prime Minister Modi. So are you telling me the Congress and the opposition and Sanjay Jha laughing out there? Are you higher than the Supreme Court?
Can I
Is
give
the
him a quick
BBC higher than
response?
the Supreme Court? Because we all know that BBC is basically the British bullshitting company. So are you still suffering from a colonial hangover?
Answer him quickly,
Wake
Shivani.
up, Sanjay. Wake up, Congress. This is about India. This is about a man that represents India.
No, I think that fundamental point has been made on this documentary for the last 3 days. I have limited time. Let me give an opportunity to all of our guests. If I have time, I'll go back to our previous speakers. Tushar, Javed sir, I'm coming to you, but Tushar, before that. Tushar, here's the fundamental problem for the Congress party. Today, by its own people, one by one who leave, one is the culture of chamchagiri, which Anil Anthony is talking about. The second is, you are not seen as standing with Indian interests. Now, I'm not saying whether that's correct or not, but that's the perception. Your own people are saying and lambasting you while leaving this. And Ashwini Kumar has said this in the past. Ghulam Nabi Azad has said this in the past. Even others have said that you can better serve the interests of the country outside of the Congress party. Now, that's the fundamental problem for the Congress party. Digvijay Singh opens his mouth, embarrasses the Congress party day in, day out, just did it this week. No action on him. He doesn't get hounded. He gets protected. But Anil Anthony must be hounded out.
Shivani, Rahul Gandhi is unwilling to learn. It started with Chaukidar Chor Hai, then Adani Ambani ki sarkar. Now they're clinging on to a BBC documentary about 2002. It's just appalling how Rahul Gandhi is unable to read the sentiment on the ground. Now, it's just about Anil Anthony who wants to keep the national interests above the party interests. We have people like Sanjay Jha who have been suspended from the party for speaking for party's interests. So at the end of the day, when someone says there's diversity in the Congress, the diversity is only limited to as far as you can agree with Rahul Gandhi. When someone says Congress is all about love, it's only about love as long as Rahul Gandhi can tame those people. So the problem here is the Congress is losing its MPs, MLAs, its esteemed members one by one, but Rahul Gandhi is unwilling to learn. They want to pick up a stray documentary from 2002, disregard what the Apex Court has said, disregard what the Apex Court has said about some people using the victims of 2002 riots to peddle an anti-national agenda. They want to disregard all that, but want to use a straight documentary to peddle their own political agenda.
But this is
now, how are you going to win any elections like that? How are you going to
response.
get the sentiment on the ground right if you're going to use a foreign corporation's documentary that disregards what the Supreme Court has said to win elections?
I don't want to make this about the documentary because frankly we've debated it to death. But my point is, this is not just about Rahul Gandhi, Tushar. This is about the culture. He's not hounded by Rahul Gandhi per se, right?
But who
within the Congress
that
party,
culture,
there's
Shivani?
no acceptance of the view that Anil had.
But Shivani, who encourages that culture? Who comes on television and says, हमारे जवानों को पीट रहे हैं, 2000 square kilometer जगह चाइना को दे दी, देश को बेच दिया? Who utters such foolish statements? It's Rahul Gandhi. The encouragement for this hounding is coming from the top. So at some point, one has to question, is Rahul Gandhi unable to keep the party together?
Okay,
Because from the
can I
looks of
frame
it,
this
everyone
slightly
is leaving.
differently for Javed M. Ansari? Javed sir, is it that anybody who's not openly bashing Narendra Modi may even take a line that is slightly, favorable to the union government of the time, which is headed by Narendra Modi? That view, right or wrong, is just not acceptable in the Congress party. You have to continue to hammer Narendra Modi or there is no space for you, no matter what sense you talk.
Shivani, let's be fair. Which political party would allow? And there's a very heavyweight. We have a lot of BJP supporters on the panel. Which would the BJP in this case have allowed somebody to voice his opinion that, okay, what the BBC documentary is saying is fair. We should at least, it has not healed wounds. There may be closure of the issue, but it has not healed wounds. And there are people who've suffered are still hurting. And therefore, we need to take a second look. Would somebody have allowed that? Would the BJP have ever allowed that? And what Mr. Antony has not said or clarified or elaborated it, who is it that it was handling? My information is this is an internal affair, factionalism of the Kerala Congress to bringing the National Congress Party and all that. Mr. Antony neither has the patience nor the luck of his father. His father, on at least a dozen occasions I can recall, had a contrarian view to that of his party leadership, and yet he occupied the highest positions and got the highest respect in the Congress party. Mr. Antony has been at the wrong end of the feud within the Kerala Congress, and he's reacted to that. Nobody, to my knowledge, no senior Congress leader has attacked him or criticized him or pulled him up. If they have, then he should name them. And as far as double standards is concerned, they publicly distanced themselves from what Digvijay Singh said. In fact, they used some very strong words.
They
there
did,
is a feeling in a section of the
he
Congress
keeps
party
doing it
that
and no
maybe something
reprimand
that they
comes.
should not have done.
I get your point. I do thank all of our guests for joining us. I'll just add one thing, which is that yes, no other party would have possibly allowed it either. But if you claim you are better than others and you stand for certain standards, and you have to depict that, you have to then walk the talk. Otherwise, people will not buy it. I'll end it at that. Very limited time today. Time for a very short break. Some updates on the other side.
Discredited by their actions on the what we call about is it tukde gang. Whether it is JNU or the universities, whether it is Kerala government or Telangana, there is a set of people who are trying to promote this narration. And the second thing is, we have to also understand what our constitution asks the government of the day to do. It says that it is the responsibility of the government, and not only the government, every citizen of this country has the responsibility that it should maintain and authority or respect of the institutions like Supreme Court and all courts, High Court, Supreme Court, even the contempt of court law says that. That the respect of the institution has to be maintained and authority of the institution has to be maintained by everybody.
Sure. Let me ask Sanjay Jha that, the point is that no media organization, BBC or New York Times or whoever it is, no media organization surely is at a better vantage than the Supreme Court of India, and no less than the Supreme Court appointed SIT looked into this matter, and it closed these cases by saying that there was no large-scale conspiracy or inaction or looking the other way by the leadership of the state at that time. I can quote to you the Supreme Court judgment, which basically says it dismissed claims of a larger conspiracy of the 2002 Gujarat riots, ruling in favor of the closure report filed by the Supreme Court SIT in February 2012. It also rejected allegations of criminal conspiracy at the highest level, observing that the inaction or failure of some officials of one section of the state administration cannot be the basis to infer a pre-planned conspiracy by the Gujarat government. Surely, no media organization is above the Supreme Court of India. This is like I said, I'm quoting from the judgment of the Supreme Court, Sanjay Jha.
Zaka, very pertinent points. Since the Supreme Court is the one where the BJP seems to be taking a lot of its comfort from, they cannot be hypocritical, right? Then we also need to listen to what the Supreme Court had to say about the Gujarat government, insinuating at the role of Mr. Modi when they referred to him and his government as Nero. And we all know what Nero was famous for, that the city burned while he looked the other way around. I think it's a very serious castigation of, please, I did not interrupt you, Mr. Agarwal, let me finish. It's a very serious castigation, and frankly, for those who have seen the BBC documentary, that's exactly what the BBC documentary says. Point number two, the BJP can't have the cake and eat it too. I heard Mr. Gopal Agarwal saying this is 20 years old. For God's sake, your party every day rakes up history of centuries ago. You talk about the freedom movement, you malign Nehruji, etc. That is okay. But 20 years ago, perhaps one of the worst communal riots, which many people called as a state-sponsored genocide, you can't walk away from it simply because 20 years have gone. Third point, Zaka, this is a British Foreign Office investigation. This is a formal British government investigation. This is not about BBC. Let's understand, let's make a distinction very clear. BBC is a medium. I know the right-wing trollers are going hammer and tongs after BBC, but this is the British government. So Rishi Sunak may have...
One sec. I just want to be clear on the facts. I just want to be clear on the facts. This is a set of communications, a report that was sent by the British High Commission here in India at the time 2002. I think Jack Straw was the Foreign Secretary of Britain. You've seen what Kanwal Sibal, who was India's Foreign Secretary, who had said that there was one particular diplomat who was going out of his way to do this and then sort of circulate this amongst the EU envoys at that time, to which a démarche was also issued to the British High Commission and to this particular diplomat. There was this report. It was a classified report. It was kept there for 20 years. The BBC had access to this report and they broadcast parts of it. But that's not the only part of this documentary. And that report certainly is not, the gospel truth as far as 2002 is concerned. So I'm coming back to that question that I asked you. Are you then saying that the Supreme Court erred in its judgment? Because surely, the court went into every detail of what happened in 2002. And I just read a portion of what the court had to say about this quote-unquote organized criminal conspiracy behind the riots.
Well, two short points. Before I come to the Supreme Court, let me just tell you this. The US government refused to give a visa to Mr. Modi on human rights violations. And I think we all know why. There was no particular reason for them to target him. I think it was pretty brazen what was going on. Even Mr. Vajpayee in a press conference had to chide Mr. Modi. And anybody who knows the BJP's entire political history will tell you that Mr. Vajpayee was never the same after the BJP ensured that Mr. Modi continued as a chief minister. But the larger point that you raised, the Supreme Court, on the Supreme Court's verdict is based on the whole conspiracy angle. But that is one angle where the Supreme Court has to be honored whatever they said. But please remember, there are multiple aspects to what happened in Gujarat. And that conspiracy alone is not the only aspect. Secondly, Raju Ramachandran, who happened to be an amicus curiae of the Supreme Court, said, I don't agree with the SIT. He believed there was a prosecutable evidence that needed to be investigated further. No, again, if you're going to pick holes in every judgment and every conclusion, and this is by, again, a Supreme Court appointed SIT, but be that as may, let me ask Veena Sikri, I'm sure you must have read your former colleague in the MEA, Mr. Kaju, writing in one of the papers today saying that, the manner of takedowns should not be a routine response to controversial documents or documentary, even if the content therein is offensive. He says you should have expected that in the year of India's G20 presidency, there would be greater scrutiny, there would be these sort of quote-unquote hatchet jobs, and the way to respond to this is by displaying self-assurance and sober responses and not by getting agitated by every critical documentary or statement. I want to know from you, ma'am, as one of the signatories to the letter that you released last week, what were you so agitated about this documentary, and is that a better response as opposed to what Mr. Kaju said and I just outlined a moment ago?
I think one has to go into very carefully the reason why the documentary has been made and broadcast at this time. And one has to take on board the complete bias and malafide of the people who have made the documentary. I think that is the most important point, because they're trying to stir up something in India. They're trying to create communal disharmony in India. And I think it is the responsibility of the government to take whatever action they feel is necessary to
A major storm is pushing from the lower Mississippi Valley, heading toward the lower lakes and to the northeast by Thursday, according to the National Weather Service. Tempests from this system have already left a mark on the Lone Star State.
It happened real quick. As soon after it was going on about 30 seconds, I got in the closet.
It was scary. It's probably the scariest thing I've ever been through.
The National Weather Service says a tornado was confirmed by radar near Pearland, Texas, Tuesday, just south of Houston. One driver in Pasadena captured a semi-truck over on its side on Fairmont Parkway and Pasadena Boulevard.
So we have all hands on deck right now, all our neighborhoods, just not this neighborhood, all throughout Pasadena. The tornadoes touched here, touched there, and we're doing everything we can to make sure all our citizens are safe.
More than a dozen tornado reports were made as of Tuesday night, according to the Storm Prediction Center.
Locked the door and was running towards the back. And then as I was going towards the door, the glass just came in. And then just the building started ripping apart.
The tornado reports are considered preliminary until officials from the National Weather Service survey the damage today. And that information will be used for estimating the strength, length, and width of the potential twisters.
Congress has given itself the pedestal that we are the only national alternative. I think Congress must come to the terms that the public has bigger, greater choices today. It doesn't have to choose the Congress alone.
they'll put women, they'll put children and hide behind them. They are cowards. ये बुज़दिल तो हैं, ये सीधे तो लड़ नहीं सकते. 3 बार लड़ाई की और तीसरी बार तो 90,000 हमने ही पकड़ लिए थे, चूड़ियां पहना के हमने भेजे थे उनको वापस.
Our athletes are the pride of this nation. They surely deserve better than, being forced to sit in the biting cold in Delhi in Jantar Mantar protesting for, their basic rights.
No action against Shivaji, no action against RS Bharti, and there's no FIR. How can you get away by abusing, threatening governor?
Namaste, Jai Hind and welcome to this edition of The Right Stand. I'm Anil Anthony. Ladies and gentlemen, part 2 of the docu-series of the BBC is out. There are others who are here trying to rabble-rouse in campuses, and despite the government's